Success is every single individual person on an individual level being able, if Nano has changed your life or made it easier in any way or form, that is success. And Nano
Definitely
will perpetually exist. So, that will continuously rise.
Welcome to Products with Purpose. This is Eli Harrell. The purpose of this interview series is to tell the stories of people just like you and me who are putting everything on the line, going all in to create real impact. It is my job to tease out the most valuable stories from people who are building products and businesses that are laser focused on solving meaningful problems on this planet or beyond. In this week's episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with George Coxon. She is the director of the Nano Foundation. They say they are a new currency that just happens to be digital. And like the cash in your pocket, choosing to transact with Nano ensures that 100% of the value is transferred directly to the recipient. And oh, by the way, they are a foundation and a not-for-profit organization. Really, really interesting stuff. I think you guys are going to want to know about this, and I hope you enjoy the way George thinks as much as I enjoyed talking to her. Some of the highlights of our conversation: how George went from anthropology in Madagascar to championing Nano and being the director, how Nano came to exist and what makes it unique. We talked about solving the problem of the carbon footprint issues in cryptocurrencies, and overall, we just talked about the potential of a future global currency. I think you're going to want to know about Nano, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Let's jump into it. George, welcome to the show. Welcome to Products with Purpose, and thanks for being here.
Thank you very, very much for having me.
I'm quite looking forward to it. So I guess to kick us off, tell us where you're joining from and a little bit about what is Nano.
Absolutely. So I am director of the Nano Foundation, and Nano is the world's most efficient decentralized currency with zero fees, network settlements an average of 0.2 seconds, and a carbon negligible footprint. So the whole network uses the same energy output as a single wind turbine. So really, it is a new currency that happens to be digital cash, if you will. It really is as simple as that.
Nice. Well, that's a very quick intro and very, very concise. So I think we have a lot of different topics we can unpack here when it comes to people, helping people understand how this is different from the usual crypto that we hear about. And I guess keeping in mind that our audience are mostly a bit varied, but probably mostly tech founders and maybe teams of purpose-driven tech companies. So they may or may not know that much about crypto in general. But, I guess, why don't we start with your background story a little bit, and how did you get, what led you to be doing what you're doing here?
Absolutely. It's a bit of a different pathway that I've taken to be leading a software engineering company as I do currently. So really, I'm an anthropologist at heart. It's what I studied at university, evolutionary anthropology. And my real fascination is in how people tick, the behaviors behind societies and cultures. And that really led into my kind of fascination of payment behaviors, how different countries, different cultures, and even smaller economies work, and then how to knit that together on a global scale. And so that really is kind of the crux of my kind of starting point here. I mean, I worked in various, I've done various different things, such as I was working out of Madagascar, doing lemur biodiversity research. And actually, that really hammered home to me the true facts, actually, of how privileged we are in the Western world when it comes to the infrastructure that we so take for granted, whether it's banking, whether it's just, infrastructure of transport or anything like that. In Madagascar, which really shocked me, only 7% of the country know when their next meal is coming. And I was there at a time when all the wonderful Madagascar cartoons were coming out, and it was showing this haven of beauty and, of the wonderful creatures that live there. Yet at the same time, the absolute destruction and how vulnerable the people actually on the island were was completely kind of taken away from the narrative. And that was quite shocking, a shocking realization to me. I actually come from a background of FX traders. Both my mother and father were FX traders and met actually on the live floor back in kind of the 70s here in London. And my mum was a cocoa trader and my dad on the stock exchange. So we have always kind of been embedded in finance. And then to be able to mix that with my anthropology background is really a kind of a dream come true, especially in this kind of nascent, crazy world that we're currently living in with the advent kind of digital money. So how I kind of joined the Nano Foundation was actually as a hobby to begin with. My brother was kind of helping out online with some of the development of this small, tiny project. And my brother and I actually created the first digital online wallet for Nano, way back when Nano was called Rayblox, before we did a bit of a rebranding to be more kind of, applicable to the real world. So I have been at the Nano Foundation for the last nearly 5 years now, and really risen up from kind of the bottom to the top over the last 5 years. I started off kicking off with operations and partnerships, and now actually am director of the Nano Foundation, so which is an incredibly privileged position to be in. So it's definitely been quite a journey, and it's definitely something, I think, slightly different to what people may expect when it comes to running a technology company. It's quite unusual, I think, to not have a technologist at the forefront. And actually, wonderfully, my co-director and the founder of Nano, Colin Mayhew, we are quite an incredible pair in that we both have very specialist skills. And we work together in that realm where I totally respect that he has a skill set that I couldn't even imagine, having myself, which is being able to code and being able to create this code. And he respects my position. And so we work really tangibly and coherently together in these two different facets to try and run this crazy kind of movement that we have started.
Wow, that's quite the backstory. I'm such a fascinating background that you have in anthropology, and I'm deeply interested in also human behavior and studying how the world works and understanding that through the lens of the way people work. But I guess just to fill in the picture, let's zero into probably where, if I were listening, I would have the biggest question. Like, talk to us first about why do you call it a foundation? And it existed before you, so tell us how it became a foundation and what does that mean?
Yeah, so we are a not-for-profit foundation. How it came about, again, is slightly different to what I think most companies and most products would have liked the process to have been. So back in 2000, Rayblox Nano was developed back in 2014 by Colin Mayhew, by himself, for the first 4 years. And he had basically watched Bitcoin and the advent of cryptocurrency and seen the inefficiencies that were so prevalent, whether that was energy use, whether that was time to settlement, and whether that was actually accessibility of that technology itself and the ease of use. And so he created Nano. And obviously, Nano is an asset, is a currency to be traded. And due to the crazy speculative market that unfortunately we exist in, Rayblox somehow, Nano, went from 0.02 cents to $36 in the space of 2 weeks in December 2017. Now, this is deemed our all-time high, our ATH, as it's known in the cryptocurrency space. However, it was completely speculative. There was nothing behind it. We had no entities set up. There was no team. There was no structure in any way. And it's completely, I think, shocked Colin himself. He was running this as a little hobby, a project by himself, and then was all over the news, was the number one cryptocurrency for people to invest in. And that pressure and responsibility without the experience, is a terrifying position to be in. And we actually had a bit of a ragtag bunch of volunteers who had been following along Rayblox and had been working to try and create something from this magical kind of technology that had been created by Colin. And through that kind of, early 2018, that's really when the entities were set up. That's when I joined. And that's really when we kind of started to create and see the severity, I think, of actually how big this could be. And obviously everything kind of changed from that point onwards. But again, this is such a new cutting edge space. This has never been done before. And there's definitely been a lot of lessons, mistakes made, and, and learnings along the way over the last 5 years, as a team. So that's really how that became, our product, as a currency, got fame before it was ready.
Okay.
And
Makes
before
sense.
we were prepared to have this. Colin and I actually often talk about if we had launched Nano or as an app, as a TransferWise, also now known as Wise, as a way to move money around the world, which Nano obviously is, but packaged up and not as a currency, not as an asset, and how different our journey would have been. And to think about the differences is quite astonishing, I think, of what would have happened. But, I think hindsight is a beautiful thing. And, we have taken so many wonderful learnings and lessons over the last 5 years to be able to try and create a true global currency.
Fascinating. So I guess talk to us a little bit about the differences between Nano and the rest of the cryptocurrency world. And, what's the purpose? Why is it a foundation? And what are you trying to accomplish?
Sure. So, our real goal and why we're a foundation is there are 1.7 billion people in the world that do not have access to the banking infrastructure that we so take for granted here in the Western world. And with Nano, with just a Wi-Fi connection and a mobile phone, you can now bank yourself for free. You can send money anywhere in the world without fees. If you are a migrant worker working in Hong Kong, and you are sending money back to the Philippines and you're having to queue up for 2 hours every Sunday for the right to send your own money through a service such as Western Union or something like that, where extortionate fees are added on top. Now, we just do not believe that is acceptable because only one person wins, and it is not the person who has earned that money. We believe that everyone on the planet has a right over their own money, a right to send it and spend it as they wish, whenever they wish. And that really is kind of the crux of what we do. So, why we have created a foundation is we are the guardians of this and are creating and developing alongside community developers this open source, decentralized currency that has been designed to enable economic freedom on a global scale that anyone in the world can access. And that is a very, very clear goal, to try and reach. And obviously that has helped us massively to have such clarity on that. But obviously that's a huge undertaking. That's a huge position to be in.
Yes.
So that's really why the foundation exists is, during these first creating a global currency, we are in the embryonic stages, I think, of digital money right now. Even though, we're talking about 10 years in, that is nothing when we think about actually a currency and looking at the incumbent fiat systems. And so we are just at the start. And the foundation right now is here to try and lead through these early development stages and create an ethos and a grassroots community movement behind Nano to really show its potential. We actually have some interesting plans with the foundation moving forward, which is slightly novel in that our whole goal is to shut the foundation down.
Okay.
Which I think is slightly different to what people may expect. Nano is a truly decentralized currency. There is no middlemen. And that really is the point of a peer-to-peer digital currency. And the whole point of Nano is to be fully decentralized, that no one can ever stop it. And no one can ever stop it right now. The Nano Foundation cannot stop Nano right now. It is everywhere, and that's so brilliant. But we need to remove ourselves and faces and the leaders, per se, behind such a currency for it to truly be a currency. We can never have greed or ego or personal ego behind doing something like this because we have to step back and put Nano first. So our goal when we reach kind of what we deem commercial grade, which we are still in the development stages of Nano currently, but when we reach commercial grade, which is the point where there are no extra features we will add. As a currency, when creating software, due to its being a currency, there are no bells and whistles that we're looking for. Our goal is to make the most efficient currency that has ever been created. We currently are. Mm-hmm. However, we'd like to get more efficient.
So talk about how that contrasts to cryptocurrencies out there that people are more familiar with, like Bitcoin, et cetera. And
sure.
Yeah, what you just said.
So the rest of the space obviously is a completely speculative space. We at the Nano Foundation do feel that kind of the crypto space has slightly lost its way in a sense, in that crypto was developed initially for economic freedom. We are now in a situation where the crypto space is known for scams, is known for greed, speculation, is manipulative. and is not really looking anymore to helping those most vulnerable in the world. I think it has probably created a slightly more elitist way of actually being able to access kind of digital currency markets. So Nano, we are so different in quite a few ways. So we never had an ICO, so an initial coin offering, where we believe ICOs only benefit those with capital. And that really is the antithesis of, as I said, why cryptocurrency was designed. So how we distributed Nano, and actually an ICO is obviously a way of distributing cryptocurrency, is that we created a faucet and that was an online website, and everyone could jump online, Google captures. And these are the 12 boxes where it's the I'm not a robot test. You've got to pick out the 3 bridges or the 3 bicycles.
Yeah.
And so people were rewarded in Nano for their time. And basically this method benefited those people that had the most time, and their time was valued the least on a global scale. And so that really meant that we could get Nano into the hands of those most vulnerable, those in emerging economies, and people were earning more through using this faucet than their daily wage, allowing Nano to have utility at its forefront. I think the crypto space currently is 99% of it are solutions looking for a problem. And we truly, truly believe, and we've always been very set from the absolute start, that we are fixing a real world problem. And that is 1.7 billion people not having access to banking infrastructure. On top of that, we really believe that Nano is a currency and not an asset. So we believe in Nano being, we're trying to get Nano to be spent, sent, and accepted in real time versus the buying, holding, and selling kind of based on market valuation. And then I think the final huge difference between us and the rest of the space, which, is what you'll see all over the media right now, which is the energy consumption of the cryptocurrency space and the portrayal that it's necessary to use such energy to have digital money. And we really believe that digital money should not cost the earth.
Yeah, for sure.
So for instance, to put it into kind of perspective, when it comes to energy consumption, one Bitcoin transaction equals 3,000 miles of electric driving.
Really?
That is an unsustainable technology that we are heralding at the moment. If Bitcoin was not a personal investment, I do think that people would be picketing outside their offices, as we are Shell and BP. Yet because it's a personal investment, people are not taking off these rose-tinted spectacles and actually looking at the crisis that we're currently in. Yesterday in the UK here, we sat in the highest temperature ever recorded. And this is not a dystopian future of the climate change and this climate crisis. This is now, it's happening now. And what we need to look at really is the fundamental is looking at fundamentally kind of progressing with technology. And that's really where we're looking at with Nano, is that next phase.
So going back just a second, because I've been hearing mixed stories about the energy consumption of crypto transactions. So as much as you can tell me in your knowledge, just want to go back to that figure you gave us. So one Bitcoin transaction is equal to how many?
3,000 miles.
3,000 miles of electric driving. Okay. Yeah. And just curious, but does that matter? Does the quantity or the size of the transaction affect that? Or is it just kind of any transaction? Even if I trade a few dollars worth of...
It really depends on what, and I don't want to get too technical.
Let's not go too deep, but just to, you're teaching me something, so I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, so it is a design choice. Let's put it that way with Bitcoin. And that's something that we have purposely changed. So one Bitcoin transaction is the same as 15.5 million nano transactions when it comes to energy consumption.
Wow.
So what we are trying to show, Bitcoin is obviously heralded as the freedom of digital money. However, it is 14, 15 years old now, and there is innovation that has happened to create a better and more sustainable technology. And one of the challenges we face currently is getting people to actually see that, use a technology that is looking to a sustainable future. We have to. We don't have a choice anymore. And that really is something that we are very strong on.
Yeah, no, but I think this is a really important thing to focus in on, because for anyone out there who's either dabbling or trading frequently or infrequently, whatever, but thinking that cryptocurrency is the future and maybe they want to move toward it or adopt it or even accept it as a business, you're not seeing any physical transaction happening. So it's just ethereal. In my mind, I'm not tying that directly to a negative impact to the planet. But if we really understand connections like equations, what you just said, realizing that this may not be better. It's certainly not better than spending paper when it comes to the planet. So it's actually way worse. That's important to know so that we can make decisions in the future. Oh, thanks for sharing that. Go ahead.
Especially I think when you think about the, cryptocurrency takes up less than 1% of the global economy, yet is using this energy that, is just mad. It's not sustainable. And there are technologies that are green, that do exactly the same fundamental, and have the same fundamentals, yet do it better. So let's use it. Let's take away those greed glasses and actually use technology that is better for the world. I think also, in our space, in the cryptocurrency space, banking the unbanked is a term that is used, where it's so overused in our world.
Yeah.
And we have exchanges and very, very large kind of monopolies in the cryptocurrency space that utilize that. Yet, it is those people that they're trying to bank that will have the hardest brunt and are feeling the hardest brunt of climate change. So there must be accountability for the technologies that not only us as individuals are using, but companies, that institutions are trading and using and putting forward, while having that USP, saying they're going to bank the unbanked. There must be accountability for what we're saying and what we're saying that we're doing. And there isn't right now. The greenwashing that's going on is astonishing and appalling. On the Bitcoin side, we talk about renewable energy. But, all those points are moot when there's a technology that does everything.
It's so much efficient. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we have ultra efficiency on the energy side, and then talk to us a little bit about the speed and like how much faster is it than what's out there?
So on average, our nano transactions settle in around 0.2 seconds. There are some of our competitors are around 0.5, and I think there are probably 1 or 2. And then, we've got Bitcoin that can take up to an hour. And you have to have both participants online at the same time to make a transaction with the Lightning Network, various other issues. There are, 3 main pillars that we kind of look to when it comes to trying to create money, whether that's speed to finality, whether that's scalability, and whether that's fees, and the cost of infrastructure. And obviously there are other different facets. And to be able to have kind of all 3 is something that we have been looking for. There is no point having nano if there were fees involved, if the speed was slow. The whole point was to create and look at what was around us and try and take all of that in and create the most efficient currency. However, if someone else creates a more efficient currency, we will join them. So it's not about nano winning. It's really about creating a technology that can tangibly change the world.
Beautiful.
So we have been very clear on that.
Nice. I mean, what are some of the milestones of adoption that you've seen so far? What are some of the successes that you've had to date?
With milestones and kind of that sort of things, obviously on the grand scale of things, we have accessibility points for nano. So it is increasing the fiat on and off ramp. So being able to convert your nano into your local currencies. One of our largest kind of areas of adoption is in Nigeria and in West Africa, where nano really is a necessity and not just a nice to have, again, in Venezuela, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And, when we talk about success, obviously our goal is so huge, and we have to break that down and think about success actually is when someone from our community posts on our Reddit going, in Venezuela, which did happen, going, I am actually looking for donations. We are in this current position, it's incredibly unstable economy, and various other facets. And our whole community donated to them. And they were able to basically go and buy sustenance and then go and share that with their local communities. That is success already. We have achieved that. And success is every single individual person on an individual level being able, if nano has changed your life or made it easier in any way or form, that is success. And nano will perpetually exist. So, that will continuously rise. We do have very, very grand plans on the grand scale of adoption of nano when it comes to use cases. Obviously, nano is perfect for microtransactions. Now, this is because it has secretly 30 zeros behind the fully distributed supply. So you can have 30 decimal points. And so for microtransactions, for paywalls, any online content, nano can be used as a currency. In addition to that, due to nano's speed and feeless nature, FX is a huge, huge use case of nano. Remittance, again. So really, anything money touches, Nano can do that bit better in a decentralized, feeless, and instantaneous way.
Nice. That's exciting.
It really is.
What are some of the challenges that you guys have seen so far in decisions around product development, like as you've gone through the, for as much as you've been involved in that yourself? Because we talk to people that are building software products, I would love to hear anything that you guys have dealt with, learning product management, getting customer feedback and deciding on add this feature or don't add this feature.
Yeah.
What are some things you guys have run into there?
It's definitely, we've had a huge amount of hurdles and challenges. I mean, this has never been done before. And I mean, we're on the bleeding edge of technology here, and that is such an exciting place to be. But also, it's terrifying on every single level at the same time. Nano was developed while being a live monetary network. So the added pressure of that for our developers is, huge. And we have set ourselves up internally to try and manage that as best as possible with incredibly flexible remote working. And our whole kind of internal team relies on trust, if that makes sense, and a huge amount of internal communication. But, the challenges that we have faced internally are, I could speak on hours for this, whether it's, being attacked on the network, whether it's DDoSing attacks or whether it's, managing, a huge, vibrant force of nature community and growing that and taking on feedback from hundreds of thousands of different voices and opinions and trying to cut through that noise and continue on a clear path. And what's really helped us is obviously having such a clear goal. Really, we know our goal, and it really is kind of passion that drives us. I think, one of the largest challenges we face as a team is just the scope that actually creating a global currency entails. We are a team of 12 with a huge amount of volunteers around the world in our community, and our community is often cited as the second most active in the space after Bitcoin due to its passion. But, when we talk about creating a global currency, we're talking about speaking to regulators, we're talking about businesses, partnerships, leading integrations, growing and managing a global community. And that's not even touching the software side and creating a technology that's never, ever, ever been created before. Where most of the cryptocurrency space are what we call ERC20 coins. That's basically a copy of an original code base. Now, Nano is completely a unique code base.
Okay.
So again, the absolute innovation that's taken place within the protocol is something that is, has never really been seen before. Colin LeMahieu, who is our founder and really kind of the brains behind Nano, he spent the last year writing a brand new consensus algorithm. Now, consensus really is the reason why 90% of the cryptocurrencies utilize such energy. Obviously, Nano has a very, very low energy footprint, but this consensus algorithm has been designed actually it can be used in any other facet, in any redundant computer system, basically. So, there is constant innovation going on. I think it's our challenge is really our resourcing. We are a not-for-profit team. Mm-hmm. We have never taken in profits. We've never taken in revenue. And actually, we started with $700,000 worth of Nano back in 2017. That is it.
Wow.
We are now, 2022, and we are in a much different position, having never taken a single penny in as profit, never taken revenue, and never funded. And it's just from being completely streamlined. However, obviously that has slowed down our development. The joy really is, though, the whole purpose of this was to be as pure as possible, to be a global currency. Profit and loss sheets are pure loss. They have to be so pure for us to firstly remain in the right headspace, to not have any greed involved in any of our decisions. There's no personal gain involved in what we're doing. And that, I think, has allowed us to do what we're doing and to sacrifice and give so much, because the joy of Nano is that, a little bit like Linux, it is the free tool that anyone can use in the world. And then you can develop businesses around it that can be commercial. And the whole point about Nano being feeless is that other businesses can create and can gather higher margins or create businesses that actually benefit them on a grander scale. And so that's what Colin and I actually, we have a new business starting, which is a commercial business, which is a global asset settlement network for commodities, mainly utilizing Nano's technology in the back end. So we are definitely very different to really hammer that in from the rest of the space. We have had to deal with challenges that I think some teams, would never have to face, whether that's legal battles with a large exchange was hacked. And we had to, and obviously it's the largest crypto exchange, crypto hack that's ever happened. And unfortunately, Nano was stolen. Mm-hmm. And, defending yourself in, the US court systems or anywhere else against forces that have triple the amount of money. I mean, it's our resilience has really been the core kind of factor, and passion. Passion is one of those intangibles that kind of drives a person, and it has to ooze out of every pore, and it has to be infectious to create this movement. And that, I think, has created and managed to maintain this resilience within our team. It is the true passion of what we're doing.
Definitely oozing out of your pores. I can feel it from here. That's awesome. It's something exciting, for you to be part of. And I guess it sounds pretty clear that you've got this vision of being part of something that does change the world. I mean, is that enough to sustain that passion? Just to say, well, I'm here contributing to something that's going to move forward and become the global currency, or is that enough? Does that drive you? Does it keep you motivated all the time?
You know what? It does. And I know that sounds mad. It really is. It's the passion to actually see the on the ground, real time, tangible change that Nano can make. That is what drives us. And I think you have to work for something or someone that you truly believe in. And I think that really is, the crux of everything. And it really is the passion for Nano's true global potential and the core principle of an equal and fair global economy that has kept us going through kind of our darkest times. The mental gymnastics that we have to go through, whether it's our product really being valued on a global market that we don't agree with continuously, while going a different direction, while being in a space that we don't really exist in. We've all had to learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and lean into it. Whether it's being a female leader and kind of sticking out in a very, very male-dominated space, whether it's kind of all the different facets that our whole team go through, passion is at the core. It has to be.
It's amazing to hear this story now and imagine the future. And I'm excited to be just, coming into contact with you while you're doing this. And I'm looking forward to seeing from the future, looking back. So just to clarify something, as Nano is traded on these exchanges that you don't really agree with, and you don't want it to be speculative and the value of it being so volatile, do your operations and your foundation benefit when there's an escalation in value of Nano?
Absolutely. And to be
because
clear,
you're running off of that?
Yeah. So to be clear, obviously investment is a part of Nano's life as a currency. It is just not something us as a foundation would ever put forward as our main reason behind, why we've created Nano. Our dev fund, our development fund some of it is kept in Nano. So of course, when the price appreciates, our resources appreciate. However, obviously, we've had to prepare and see a future of markets where we had no idea what's going to happen and prepare for that. And also, unfortunately, hindsight is also a very beautiful thing. I think that's something that all leaders have to learn how to deal with. So yes, Nano is an investment, and that's not our purpose though. So despite us embracing those, and we could do probably a little bit better as a foundation to do that, embrace those people that are in Nano for a different reason as to why we have created it. And that's one of, the challenges that we face, having such an open source and global thing that we've created. People want to use it for different reasons as to what we would like that to be. And that's absolutely fine. Nano can be to anyone what they want. It is there to use as you wish. We will never tell people to use Nano. Nano is there to fix a problem if you have it. How we work with businesses is we ask what problems they face. And if Nano can fix it, we will help them utilize Nano in that way. But we've got no interest in forcing Nano upon anyone. Nano is there to help.
So thinking about, you made the analogy and the comparison to Linux, getting Nano to the point where enough people on the planet understand what it is and they're using it. Let's avoid the word adoption, but there's awareness and there's usage. Then how will you know when you can dissolve the foundation and let it, organically proceed? Is it just a technology milestone that you need to get to, or do you feel like there's a clear sort of global awareness and usage milestone as well?
So it's actually a technology milestone because we have plans after that shutdown. So how we hope this works. And obviously, again, everything changes. But this is our goal, is to shut down the foundation as it currently stands. That means, we have team on payroll, we have X, Y, and Z. And we, despite Nano itself as a network being very decentralized, our development is not. The Nano Foundation shoulders 99.9% of that development. Now, as I said earlier, as a currency, we have a roadmap to the point at which Nano will just need to be maintained forevermore. There's no bells and whistles with Nano. We're not interested in adding fluff. We are interested in making the most efficient currency that's ever been made. And so what we'll do is we'll shut down the foundation at that point, and we'll actually reopen a new structure. And now this new structure, again, will emulate the Linux Foundation, which are the companies and institutions that are utilizing Nano and are basically seeing those huge cost-saving benefits, whether that is sending, on their FX costs or whatever, on a huge kind of global cost-saving benefits of these institutions. They will then look to help secure the network through sharing their resources, just as the Linux Foundation does. So that's really kind of how we hope that the future of Nano will look like, that it will be organizations that are utilizing Nano, see the huge benefits of utilizing Nano itself, and obviously would like to maintain that and secure that by sharing resources on a global scale.
Nice. And when you reference keeping it simple and not adding, bells and whistles and fluff, are you talking about things like contracts and other things that? Okay.
I am. And, I think there's a huge amount of innovation going on in this space. But to have a global currency to work as true digital cash, there's no reason to have smart contracts. There's no reason. It doesn't make the currency faster. It does not make the currency lighter, or more efficient. So why? And that's our goal, is to be digital cash, nothing more and nothing less. And we truly believe in doing one thing and doing it very, very well. That's it.
Nice. Love it. All right. So let's talk a bit about, presuming some of the people listening are running businesses. You said earlier that you like to talk to businesses and find out what they need and help them use Nano, I guess. So then I'd love to think like a business owner and think of what are the ways that you see businesses starting to, see the value and trust that they can utilize Nano as a currency.
Absolutely. So, there's a huge grand scale of different sorts of businesses. Now, when we're talking about small merchants, your newsagents down the road, who every time Visa and MasterCard and a card is tapped, they are being charged 1% up to 5% sometimes per transaction to accept that. Now, only two companies are winning out of that, and that's Visa and MasterCard on a global scale. So to be able to cut that out, to be able to cut out, the $10 minimums that you get, and that's to cover those charges for these small businesses, to be able to do that and have that freedom to accept 100% of the value transfer is incredible. If you think about charities, being able to donate 100% with no overheads, with no cost deduction and reductions to that charity, and being able to see your money being utilized in the way that you wish. If you have payroll on a global scale, we're looking at a huge change in how businesses are working with remote teams spread around the world. Be able to pay, your staff or pay anyone on a global scale, to be able to use Nano, cut your FX overheads and your remittance fees and give you that freedom. And Nano also can enable, if you're a small business or a content creator, as an individual or as a platform or as a business, you can now monetize your content for free, feelessly, and be able to have complete ownership over that whole transfer and that whole process. So really, just as having a bit of funding or anything like that can give you that freedom and empowerment to go and start your own business, Nano takes it that one step further and actually goes, right, you have this business. You can now actually completely reduce all the unnecessary overheads, cost, delays, and stress by utilizing Nano. However, again, we are in the early days of cryptocurrency. There is a lot of work still to be done when it comes to the usability of Nano and of cryptocurrency. We really focus on user first and user led kind of approach where it has to be simple and easy to use. It has to feel exactly like, you would tapping your card or spending, the money that you have. So there's a huge, crazy amount of benefits. However, there is still risk. There is still a lot of work to be done. We're talking about volatile currencies and cryptocurrencies. Nano being a fully distributed currency and a free floating currency, our volatility will decrease due to supply and demand. As Nano increases adoption, its volatility will stabilize, and we are trying to get to that point. However, it is a process, and that really is what, we are working through currently.
Got it.
Little things also, one of our main kind of exciting use cases, and I can't go into too much detail here, but it's in the legal cannabis industry in the US. Now, the company that we are working with, FlowHub, now that is out into the world, but there is an issue in the legal cannabis payment side, where obviously due to cannabis can be legal on the majority of states, but on federal law it's not. Therefore, they cannot make cross-state transactions payments. So we have, through Nano, enabled a way for users to be able to utilize credit cards and be able to purchase through Nano in the back end. And that's the beauty of Nano. It is a currency, but it's also a technology to be used as a tool in the back end as well. It doesn't always have to be heralded at the forefront. It can be used in arbitrage. It can be used in the back end. And that's the joy of its use.
Nice. So what would you say are some of the biggest kind of frequently asked questions or fears, concerns that keep people from moving faster toward utilizing this technology?
I think there's a lot of misinformation, and there's a dearth of misinformation and information online. It's very, very hard, firstly, to educate yourself, especially in the cryptocurrency space, and then add the media on top who, are saying this scam and that scam and X and Y and Z, and not really heralding actually the potential of this incredible technology.
Right.
That is definitely kind of a struggle that we see of many, many users. Even talking to in my local village, for instance, saying that you work in cryptocurrency and run one is not a pleasant experience sometimes, due to the fact of what's been said around it, and that is definitely a challenge. I think, risk and the misunderstanding, the lack of education around cryptocurrency is a huge challenge. And that feeds into all the questions that we see is trust. Why should you trust and use this? And I think trust is such a big part of this. However, if you think about it, when we tap our card, you don't know how that works. You trust that it does. You don't know how, and you've never been interested in working out how that works. Yet you trust that it does. And that's something that we are striving for through our actions, that what our technology can be trusted. It is not people. It is not the company. We are decentralized currency, and you can trust that technology.
What is the process that you think people need to go through? What will that process look like for people to get to the point where they trust it as much as a piece of paper that the government prints? How long do you think it's going to take for the majority of people to realize we can trust this? How
long is a piece of string? It's, I think it really boils down to necessity. Necessity over nice to have. Again, if you're fixing a real world problem, there is a need to try and use it. And we really believe, when we give pitches or when we speak to people, what we do first is we show Nano. We show a Nano transaction. The proof is in the pudding. You have to see it with your own eyes and you have to experience it to believe it. And that's it. Very, very few other cryptocurrencies can you do that with. Can you show in the real world? Can you send a transaction between two phones right here, right now?
Nice.
That is what's needed. So the more people, and this is why we focus on community and grassroots, growing communities, everything we do is organic, because it really has to have people believing and understanding what they're seeing to be able to share that news further and a trust that they want to share that. So again, it's having something that is what it says, it does what it says on the tin, nothing more and nothing less. And that's definitely made it a lot easier in that regard. But I think 10, 15 years at least to be able to see this utilized on a grand scale. Obviously, you've got regulation coming in, which is incredibly exciting, actually, in many different ways. Nano is deemed a non-security. And again, that's a unicorn in the cryptocurrency space. And is one of the huge challenges that we have worked towards to make sure that Nano is prepared and is within regulation to be a global currency that has never existed yet.
So it's actually labeled as a non-security.
Yep.
Already. Wow. Okay. That's big. How many other cryptocurrencies have achieved that?
Couldn't tell you exactly, but I would like to think we're the only one. There might be one other, but the non-ICO and the Howey test really is the crux. And we passed the Howey test beyond belief. Can
you tell us what that is?
So the Howey test really it's the crux of what obviously makes a security a security. Basically, it attempts to determine whether an investment is money and has a reasonable expectation of profits. So that's how you talk about your product. We don't have price discussions on our platforms, for instance. We will never say, buy Nano here. We can say, you can buy Nano. There's options to do this and options to do that. Obviously, our distribution method, not promising that you will make a profit off this. And we are actually quite the opposite. We actually try and encourage you to spend and use it as currency instead.
It's for transactions, not for storing value, right?
Yeah, so there's 4 elements. I can go through them if you'd like.
Sure.
So the first is an investment of money. So no one it's basically invested money into the enterprise in expectation of profits. It is a common enterprise. Number 2, expectation of profit and be derived from the efforts of others, being number 4.
Okay. Yeah. That is beautiful. I mean, very convincing for me to, hear you talk about this and just hear the whole story and realize that it's a decentralized technology that's already into the world. Yeah. I think the Linux analogy really helps understand, how open source it is. And I could really see the future as we look at, the potential for fiat currencies to fall apart with all the inflation we're seeing, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen things happen in countries like Venezuela, if it becomes necessary, and it's already there, it's pretty easy to see that all we need is awareness.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, in a really simple fact, $42 billion in the last 6 years of Nano being live, $42 billion they've been processed through Nano without a single fee.
Wow. Impressive.
Simple as that.
That's a big figure and
it is
quite impressive. What do you think people out there can be doing, individuals hearing about this, understanding it? I would imagine one of the first things would be build the trust for yourself by using it. But beyond that, how do we spread the word? We have some incredible, firstly, join the community. That's what is such a welcoming, exciting place. Join the community, join our subreddit. And the discussions that go on are great. And there's a lot of debates. And actually, we as the Nano Foundation, I'm constantly reading, trying to get inspiration and also get feedback from the community in that realm. But some of the things that we have in our community, we have an app called We Nano. Now, I think everyone remembers Pokemon Go, everyone running around, adults and children alike, picking up Pokemon with their phones through AR. It's exactly that, but it's free Nano. Now, our whole community is based really on altruism. We really believe in sharing and the possibilities of altruism on a global scale. And so We Nano is a way that through AR, anyone in the world can donate and put down what we call a spot anywhere. So I can put down a spot, for instance, in Tanzania. And the whole community can donate money to that spot for other people to walk on the ground in Tanzania and go pick that up. So, for instance, we had a community member speak at the University of Benin in Nigeria, and we tweeted about it. And our whole community, without us asking, jumped in and put down We Nano spots and shared their own Nano for the students to be able to pick up that Nano for free and go and try it for free. That is so mind-blowing. That's so cool. And then on top of that, charities, if you are a charity listening here right now, get in touch with We Nano because you can put down a spot wherever you are and that can be branded to you. So for instance, 3D Story is a charity that you can donate to through We Nano. They make 3D houses for those most vulnerable in Mexico.
And through our community, we built a full house through donations, which is super cool. And that spot will have a little house in it. There's a spot of SOS Children's Villages in Tanzania that has a laptop on it, and you can donate there, and you know that that donation is going to go to that charity to go and buy laptops for X and Y school. It is such a force of nature. The potential of WeNano in war zones, for instance.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like after a typhoon in the Philippines or after some incident.
Exactly.
Yeah, amazing.
And the thing is, though, unfortunately, for it to work, we have to have the awareness of nano on the ground there to make it worth its while. But my goodness, it is incredibly exciting.
Yeah, so that was my next question. I had that written down for kind of my last question on the actual technology and sort of usage, et cetera. So real world application. How can I find out which people around me or in my network or in my city? Is there a way that I can find out who else would value Nano if I wanted to pay for something, I wanted to buy something from them?
So if go on our website, we've got a hub where we list all the merchants that accept Nano, and we do rely on the community to let us know, obviously, if they've come across a new small business accepting Nano, and there are various different ones. But really join the community, because we have localized communities from that point. So if you are a German speaker and you are in Berlin, then join the German Telegram group and you will find others within your location. Also with WeNano, it's actually a community platform as well. So you can put down a spot and you can chat to others who have the app within that local area of that spot and create a bit of a community. So if you wanted to have a meetup, for instance, you could do so and invite your local community through WeNano, having seen who else is around, and join in together and create something together. It's the joy of collaboration in a localized micro and macro scale.
That's fascinating. Fascinating. All right. Well, I can't wait to play around with these tools and check out the things you're describing. The last 5 minutes of this conversation have painted a very vivid and exciting picture that I'm curious to see with my actual eyes. So thank you. Very exciting.
No problem at all.
Well, George, thank you so much for sharing this. But more importantly than that, thank you so much for the energy that you're putting into something that it's very clear that you're doing something for us, for humans, and not just for yourself. So thank you for all the work you're putting into creating, making us aware and making sure that this is finished.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that. And I hope you join the movement. Anyone, Nano is open to all. That's what's so wonderful about it. So join in.
No, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to talking to my co-founders and other people about how I've had a lot of ideas come into my head about how I can, know enough that I would be able to share this with other people that I know. So looking forward to that.
Cool.
All right. Well, as a wrap-up question, I love to ask this question at the end of every conversation. If you could, and you told me you're an avid reader, so I'm really looking forward to hearing your answer. If you could recommend a book to any purpose-driven leader, what would it be?
So yes, I am an avid reader. I actually collect books before 1920 for the stories that are on the fingerprints. I love books, basically. So what I would recommend is slightly off kilter. It's actually Flowers for Algernon, which is one of my favorite books by Daniel Keyes, a bit of a sci-fi. However, I'm sure it's still taught in schools in the US. I don't know whether it is actually, but it really is around how past events shape your future and the impact of happiness and freedom and what that might mean for an individual and how that changes from individual to individual. It really is about the process of learning and failure and resilience. And I think, obviously being an anthropologist, I focus on humans and our resilience. And that, I think, every leader needs to understand, I think, their own resilience, what makes them happy, what they're actually striving for, and being able to take that step back, being able to look at mistakes and failures and go, God, wish that hadn't happened. However, what can I learn from this? Making mistakes and failures are such a huge part of innovation, and they are a necessity when it comes to building something new, and being able to accept that and being able to take that in and move forward still is, I think, something that obviously is incredibly powerful. And I think Flowers for Algernon does it in a visual and visceral sense in so many ways, whether it's through the language that it uses. For anyone that's read it, how Daniel Keyes uses language at the start, and we see the story and language evolve through the book, is I just think it's a work of art, personally. I do have a second. Am I allowed to say a second, or is that?
Sure.
So the second is the Overstory, so Richard Powers, and it's around the interconnection of trees. And I know that, again, it's slightly off kilter, but it's around the interconnection of kind of nature and how that underpins the world we live in, the power of people and passion. I think we all have to take lessons from nature. And I think we need to do so a lot more. We have stopped looking at nature that actually has all the answers for us to be able to move forward and succeed. I mean, a great kind of example of this is the Douglas fir. And I love trees and I love books, by the way. So the Douglas fir tree, when it's dying and knows it's dying or it has a disease, it will push down all its nutrients into its root systems to other species of trees so that they might survive that, coming pest or disease that's spreading around. We all as leaders, I think, need to take a step and look at how nature exists and cohabits. We as humans need to learn how to cohabit on this planet. And that's something that we are not doing very well right now. And so I think those two books are incredibly important. But anyone, you don't have to be a leader, just to read them as a human alone, I think.
Thank you. Those sound amazing. Sounds like Flowers for Algernon, which I've heard of but not read, really dovetails well with the work of Carol Dweck and Mindset. And I'm curious to read it.
Please do.
Both of those sound fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing.
No problem at all.
It's been a lot of fun and love your energy, love what you're doing, and looking forward to getting involved with the community and understanding more and spreading the word. So thank you.
Well, thank you ever so much for having me. It's been an absolute joy. Thank you.
Talk soon. Thank you for being here. I hope that something here will be valuable to you in your journey to create the change you want to see in the world. Until next time, keep connecting with people that are working toward impact, and make sure to reach out and make someone feel a little more supported today.